Good morning, this is your math teacher, Mr. Ramirez, and this is a lesson about estimating by rounding. So imagine this situation. Samuel is hosting a party and wants to make sure he has enough chicken nuggets to feed his guests. He predicts that about 18 people will come to his party, and each will want about 8 chicken nuggets. How many nuggets should he order? Well, you could do the math, and there's nothing wrong with getting an exact answer, but in this case, he's not 100% sure how many people are going to show up, nor how many nuggets each individual will eat. So an exact answer doesn't necessarily make the most sense. It's not necessarily necessary. What he could do here is simply estimate. Let's say he rounded 18 to the nearest 10, he would get 20 people, because more or fewer than 18 people could show up. And let's say that instead of saying everyone's eating 8, he rounds to the nearest 10 and says that it's 10. Well, then that's easy math. That's 200. And so if, let's say, Samuel was standing in Frisbee and had to decide how many nuggets he should order, he could simply estimate, do the work in his head, and get 200 nuggets. So, as you can see from our first example, the reason that estimating is useful is because in everyday life, we don't always need an exact number. Sometimes we just need an idea of the amount that we'll need. So one of the most common examples is when you're at the market. So let's say that you're at the market and you see the prices below. Well, would you actually go ahead and add all those numbers? Well, there might not be a reason to. You could just round them all to the nearest 1,000 pesos, and we'd get 3,000, 6,000, 2,000, and 4,000. And that makes our math much easier. This is something you could just do in your head. And that would give you 15,000 pesos. And you know that you would need around 15,000 pesos in your wallet. Whenever we estimate, we have to keep in mind that because they're not exact, sometimes we can overestimate or underestimate. So when we round a number up, we have an overestimation. We have more than what's actually true, more than reality. So if I estimated the cost of Frisbee, which is 28,200 pesos, and I rounded to the nearest 10,000, I would get 30,000 pesos. But just remember that that's more than reality. It's an overestimation. Now, if I rounded down, the opposite would be true. I would underestimate, which means less than what I really have. So if I rounded to the nearest 10 for 22 spots left on a party bus, I would get 20. Now, this is important sometimes. For example, with our domicilios example, it's okay to overestimate where you have more money than you need. But if I were to round down instead, let's say I rounded down to 28,000, that would probably not be so good. I wouldn't have enough money. In the second example, if I were trying to invite people to my party bus and I overestimated, that might be a problem. I might invite too many people, whereas rounding down in that case would be safer. I know I'd still have spots left. So how do you know what the place value is that you need to use? Well, there is no correct answer. It just depends on the numbers, okay? It depends on the numbers you're working with. So just keep in mind that the higher place values you use are going to be less accurate, and the lower place values are going to be more accurate. However, with that said, that doesn't necessarily mean you should always use the lowest place value. Let's look at this example to estimate the total number of ants at KCP. Let me start by rounding to the nearest 10. 34,620 would be my first total. 29,380 would be my second total. And 46,080 would be my third total. But does this really make my math any easier? Not really. So even though it's more accurate, it's closer to the actual number, it doesn't actually help me do mental math. So in this case, I'd probably just want to round to the nearest 1,000. Okay, so I could get 35,000. I would get 29,000. And I would get 46,000. And this is a much easier number for me to add because I know that my numbers will end in 1,000. I could simply add these together and get 110,000 ants approximately. And as you can see, that's a much quicker addition problem. Let's go ahead and start. These first 3 steps are from our rounding lesson. They're more of a review, and the last step is simply to use the operation provided. So in this question it says you have 50,000 pesos and you want to buy an ice cream that costs 6,700 pesos. Estimate the amount of money you will have left over after buying the ice cream by rounding to the nearest 1,000. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to look at the place value. I'm rounding to the nearest 1,000. That will tell me that this number will actually be rounded down and stay the same. For 6,700, I would see that I round up to 7. And 50 minus 7,000 is going to give me 43,000 pesos. So as you can see, the rounding to the nearest 1,000 made that math a lot easier. You are volunteering to have soccer practice with the kindergartners. They need 33 meters squared per player. There are 18 players. Estimate the amount of space you need by rounding to the nearest 10. So I'm going to identify my place value, and that will tell me to round down to 30. In the next number, it will tell me to round up to 20. Now, 30 times 20 would give me 600 meters squared, okay? And as you can see, that math is much easier. I need about 600 square meters. You have 47 minutes left in class, and you have 9 writing questions on your test. This is a really relevant example as a student. How much time should you spend per question? By rounding, so round to the nearest 10. So if we look at 47, 47 is going to tell us to round up. Actually, in 9, that's in the ones place. So we would simply look at our 1, and we would know that that rounds up to 10. So that would turn into 50 divided by 10, which would be 5 minutes. Okay, we'd spend only about 5 minutes per question. And our last example, let's say a tree has 138,912 leaves before a storm hit the city. Due to the storm, it lost 51,837 leaves. That's a lot of leaves. Estimate the number of leaves it has left by rounding to the nearest 10,000. So to simplify our math, let's just look at the 10,000s. So that's going to tell me to round up, and that will give me 140,000. And with my next number, that will tell me to round down, which will give me 50,000. If I do the math, 140,000 minus 50,000 is approximately 90,000 leaves remain. I hope this video was helpful to you. Have a great day.